Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is 8th grade math lesson 1.1. Make sure we copy our notes and as we move forward. Make sure also you are not just in robot mode, but you are actually understanding while we are moving forward. We are talking about one-step and two-step equations. Here is the first question. Please make sure you write it down so that we can work on this together tomorrow. Alright, let's go over just a few steps. Let's remember we do have two sides to an equation. I'll call this side 1, and then I'm going to call this one side 2. What we want to do is we want to get our variable, the one that I highlighted in yellow, all by itself. So to do that, we are going to do some opposites. So as we are looking at this, I notice that this is a positive 4 pi, so I actually want to get rid of that whole thing. So what is the opposite of a positive 4 pi? Well, that would be a negative 4 pi, so we're going to subtract it. And we're going to cross that off. And then the rule was whatever you do on one side, you got to do to the other, right? So what did we do? We subtracted 4 pi. And if we subtract 30 from 4, we do get 26 pi. Bring down that equal sign, equals h. Last step that we do need to do is we need to check our answers. So let's put it all back together. We have 26 pi plus 4 pi should equal 30 pi. Well, let's see. What is 26 plus 4? We know that that is 30. Pi stays the same, and does 30 pi equal 30 pi? Yes, it does. So that is question number 1. Let's move on to the next question. This one looks a little bit more difficult, but please don't get scared because of the fractions. So remember, we're going to drop our line right here, and we want to get the variable by itself. So here's the letter P. So let's get rid of that. Here we go. So first of all, is that 5/12? Is that a negative 5/12 or is that a positive 5/12? Well, we know it's a positive 5/12 because if it was negative, well, it would have to say it's negative. So what is the opposite of a positive 5/12? That is a negative 5/12. And we know that that's eventually going to cross itself off. Then we just need to subtract. So we have 1/6. We subtracted 5/12 minus 5/12. Well, let's remind ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, how do we subtract fractions? Well, we need to have a common denominator. So what number does 6 and 12 have in common? We can actually make this number go just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to do 1/6, and I'm going to multiply by 2, because 6 times 2 will give me what? 12. And then 1 times 2 will give me 2. So I now have 2/12 minus 5/12. So all we got to do now is subtract. Well, let's also remind ourselves, what are the rules for subtraction? If it's the same sign, add. If it's the same different signs, subtract. So we know they are different signs because that is a positive 2 and that is a negative 5. So we do need to subtract. So 5 minus 2 is 3. So what that gives us is negative 3/12 is equal to the letter P. Well, let's put that into practice and see if that answer is correct. So we have, let's do a different color this time. We have 1/6 is equal to 5/12, and let's put this answer in here, plus negative 3/12. Well, remember, what are the rules for adding and subtracting positives and negatives or integers? If they are the same sign, add. If they are different signs, subtract. So they are different signs because that is a positive 5. So we do need to subtract. So 5 minus 3 gives us what? The answer is 2, right? So now we have 1/6 is equal to 2/12. Well, just by first look, you're like, well, this is wrong. It's not correct. But remember, we are in 8th grade math, so we always need to simplify. So what number can go into 2 and 12? Well, that is 2. So let's divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 will give you 1, and 12 divided by 2 will give you 6. So 1/6 is equal to 1/6. And that is question number 2. Let's move on to the next one. remember all the steps. Make sure you write down the problem. Break your problem in half. We got side 1 and side 2. Remember, we want to get our variable by itself. So to do that, we want to get rid of this. So what is the opposite of subtracting 2.3? Well, that is to add 2.3. So we're going to add 2.3. We know that that's going to cross itself off, and then we are going to add 2.3. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what is the rule for adding and subtracting integers? If it is the same sign, right? Plus, plus, you add. Minus, minus, you add, right? And if they are different signs, you subtract. So they are different signs, right? So we're going to subtract. So we have 5.1 minus 2.3. Remember, we do have more negatives than positives, so we know our answer is going to be negative. And let's subtract. Can I take 3 from 1? Nope. So I'm going to borrow here. That turns into 4. This turns into 11. 11 minus 3 will give you 8. 4 minus 2 will give you 2. Don't forget to drop your decimal. I remember we said we had more negatives than positives, so we know our answer is going to be negative. Drop down your equal sign. Drop down your variable. And now you have C is equal to negative 2.8. Well, let's check our answer and see if it is correct. So we have, let's change the colors. We have negative 2.8 minus 2.3 is equal to negative 5.1. Well, remember, what are the rules? If they are the same sign, right? We said same sign, we have to what? Add. So let's add. We have 2.8 plus 2.3. Let's add this together. 3 plus 8 gives us 11. Carry the 1. And then we have 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. But we also know that they are both negative, so the sign does stay. So that's negative 5.1. Drop down your equal sign, negative 5.1. So it looks like the answer is correct. Alright, let's try another one. This is question number 4. Again, please don't get scared with the fractions. Alright, so here we go. Let's draw our line again. And remember, we want to do the opposite. So looking at this, we want to get the variable by itself. So the variable is the letter J. So let's see, what operation is actually happening right here? Well, the operation is multiplication, right? So what is the opposite of multiplying? Is division. So remember, we want to keep the variable on this side. It's going to stay there. So that means we want to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of that. And how do we get rid of it? We do the opposite of multiplication. So what is the opposite of multiply? It is to divide. So we are going to divide by 2 over 15. And that's going to cross itself off, right? And then what the rule is, whatever you do on one side, you got to do to the other side, right? So let's do that. We have 4 over 3. And then we're going to put this operation here. So we divided by, right, 2 over 5. So I'm going to do this horizontally like this. It's actually easier to see it this way. So we have 4 over 3 divided by 2 over 15. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's remind ourselves, how do we divide fractions? Well, you flip the second fraction, right, the reciprocal. So you have 4 over 3, and this turns into 15 over 2, and then the division sign turns into a multiplication. So all we got to do is multiply straight across. But ladies and gentlemen, we can simplify, right? We can simplify. So let's see, is there a number that can go between 4 and 2? Remember, when we simplify, we cross simplify. Yes. So what goes into 4 and 2? Well, the answer is 2. So let's divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 will give you 1. 4 divided by 2 will give you 2. Alright, so let's rewrite the equation. We have 2 over 3 times 15 over 1, but we can also simplify again going this way. So what number can go into 3 and 15? It's 3. So 3 divided by 3 will give you 1, and 15 divided by 3 will give you 5. So now we're just going to rewrite the equation. We have 2 over 1 times 5 over 1. And ladies and gentlemen, how do we multiply fractions? We multiply fractions straight across. 2 times 5 is 10. 1 times 1 is 1. And we know that 10 wholes, or 10 over 1, will just give us the number 10. So we know our answer to this question is 10. Well, let's check our answer, right? Because we always do have to check our answer. So we have 4 over 3 is equal to 2 over 15 times 10. Well, how do we multiply a whole number and a fraction, right? We're going to do this first here. We're going to put the whole number over 1 and multiply straight across. 2 times 10 is 20. 15 times 1 is 15. Now let's just bring everything down, make it nice and clean. We have 4 over 3 is equal to 20 over 15. Well, by looking at this, you're going to be like, well, Mr. Negru, this is not the same. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are in 8th grade math. That means we always need to, what is that key word? Simplify. All right, so let's simplify. Is there a number that can go into 20 and 15? There is. That would be the number 5. So let's divide by 5. Divided by 5. We divide our numerator and our denominator. 20 divided by 5 will give you 4. 15 divided by 5 will give you 3. And if we drop everything down, you'll see that the answers are the same. All right, let's move on. I believe this may... we got 2 more questions, so let's do this. Let's see. This one you probably need a calculator on. This is the one I will allow you to use a calculator on, so please have that ready. Here we go. Let's break it in half. So remember, we want to get the what by itself. We want to get the variable by itself. So how do we do that? Well, what operation or what invisible operation goes right here? It's going to be a multiplication. So you have 5.9 times the letter t. And we do the opposite, right? When we try to move stuff to the other side, we want to move this over there and get the variable all by itself. To do that, we're going to do the opposite. So what is the opposite of multiplying by 5 over 9? That is going to be dividing by 5 over 9. Don't forget to cross it out. Whatever you do on one side, you have to do it to the other. So let's divide by 5.9. We know it's a positive, so let's remember our rules for dividing integers. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. A negative divided by a positive, we know our answer is going to be negative. Okay, so let's pull out our calculator. Let's say 23.6 and 5.9. Here we go. So we got 23.6 divided by 5.9, and we know our answer is going to be 4. So we do 23.6 divided by 5.9 is going to give us 4, and we know that, you know, when you're dividing different signs, the answer is going to be negative. Let's drop down our letter t, and ladies and gentlemen, what is the last step when we do algebra? We do need to check our answer. So let's plug everything in. We have negative 23.6 is equal to 5.9. Please don't forget your parenthesis times the negative 4. So remember, we do use rainbow. So we're going to multiply like this. We're going to distribute. I like to call it rainbow. Other math teachers like to call it distributive property. So let's do this. 5.9 times negative 4. Let's see what we get. 5.9. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I know some of you are going to be like, well, I want to put a negative, and just make sure you memorize the rules and just follow. Try not to add negatives and positives. Just stick with multiplying. So let's see. 5.9 times 4. This can give you 23.6. So we know that this gives you 23.6. You know you're multiplying a positive and a negative, so that means our answer is going to be negative. So negative 23.6 is equal to negative 23.6. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is our last question. Again, if you're looking at yourself, it's like, what is this? Letters and signs. Do not get stressed. All you got to do is follow the rules. Remember, we want to get what by itself. We want to get the variable. And let's go through all this. Is that the variable? Is that the variable? Nope. Is that the variable? Is that the variable? Nope. This is the variable. So we know we want to get that letter Q all by itself. So I'm going to highlight it just so that we can see it. All right, so let's do some operations. We know that in between these right here is multiplication. And to move something to the other side, we want to do its opposite. So what, or inverse, right? So what is the opposite of multiplying by negative 2 and pi? Well, that's going to be to divide by negative 2 and pi. All right, we know that that's going to cross itself off, and whatever you do on one side, you got to do to the other. So let's divide by negative 2 pi. Well, we do know that we're going to simplify some things, so let's just start off right here. We can cross that off right away. So pi divided by pi is just going to cancel itself off. So now you just got to do is 6 divided by negative 2. We know they're different signs, so we know our answer is going to be negative. So 6 divided by 2 gives us 3. We know our answer is negative 3. So negative 3 is equal, drop down your variable to the letter Q. Well, let's plug everything in and let's see if it is correct. We have 6 pi is equal to negative 2 pi, negative 2 pi times negative 3. Well, we're not going to multiply by this, but we can use different properties to move things together. So I'm just going to take this and we'll move it right there. So let's say negative 2 times a negative 3 pi. And we know a negative times a negative is going to give us a what? A positive. So negative 2 times negative 3 is going to give you positive 6 pi. Let's bring down our equal sign. So we know that 6 pi is equal to 6 pi. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, these are the notes for lesson 1.1. I'll see everybody tomorrow in class.